This is Richard Fowler. I'm John Kilpatrick with Oklahoma Aikido, Louisville, Kentucky, USA. And we're starting a set of classes in Aikido where I go through the basics and the way I'm teaching this to beginners. And tonight, the way I see it, you have leading, which is your basic defensive thing. Then you have breaking structure, which weakens a person. And then you have striking, which is where the aggressive, destructive part where you actually take care of your attacker. And so tonight we're looking at striking. And most people don't think, at least nobody I've encountered, thinks of Aikido, thinks of your basic techniques as strikes. We always talked about them as projections or something, benign sounding like that. And so in order to help make sense out of what's happening, I'm going to draw from this book, Championship Fighting by Jack Dempsey. And this is a super good book that teaches you a lot about principles of striking. It doesn't cover some of the things in Kuda, but it covers a lot of basics. And by studying this book, you can understand a lot about what is happening in Aikido. Also, I wish I'd have had this book when I was a kid. This would have helped me so much. But it's Championship Fighting by Jack Dempsey. And so the first thing that he talks about, get that. The first thing that he talks about is a falling step. Now, a falling step is the same thing as a knee pop stomp in Kuda. And knee pop stomp is not as good a name because you get the idea from that you're popping his knee and stomping down. And actually, you kind of get that idea from what Jack Dempsey says, except he puts one little sentence in there that tells you that's not what he means. But it's obvious that that's not what he means as he describes it. So when you do your falling step, you have most of your weight is on your forward foot, and he's a right-hander, so he's a boxer, so he's doing this from left hammy, and his right foot, he has it off to the side a little more than we do in Aikido. I'm not trying to be a boxer, so I'm not trying to imitate him. I'm trying to show you this principle. So he has the heel of this foot off the ground. And so when he does this, he's going to fall forward with this foot. So he's falling forward like this. And the thing that's important about this is, well, there's a lot important about it. When you fall forward, gravity is pulling you down, and that gives you power. And when you do this fall, your back foot automatically projects you forward. So you have the spring forward from your back foot, and you have gravity pulling you forward. And so if I do this strike and I hit the bag, then my weight should not go onto my front foot. So the way I like to practice this is trying to hit the bag before my foot touches the floor so that I'm sure the force is going into the punch. So when I do this, so this hit before my foot touched. If you let your foot touch first, if I go like that, then I've lost the power from this falling step. And so this is what you had with the boxer. When he would step and hit, all the power is going into the target, and he slowed down and dissipated the power before his foot touches. But if steps forward and misses the target, then his foot stomps down because he's falling on it. And it makes a racket, you know, he said you could hear for a very long distance. So there are a couple of exercises then that I think are better than practicing punching that will help you get the idea of what you're doing with this. And one of them is where I'm here, and so I'm in this position. I've changed feet now, but my weight is on my forward foot, my back foot, the heel is off the ground. Now when I go forward, instead of stomping and catching myself, I'm going to let this kind of collapse and continue to fall and let it propel me into a run. So it'll be that kind of thing where it projects me into a running motion rather than a falling motion. And that's going to be important in Aikido because a lot of times when we're doing this, we're closing with the guy with this, and this can be a punch, but then we're taking another step that goes all the way to the floor, and it's the same thing. So we would be here, and so then and you have this kind of thing happening. So practicing these strikes without hitting things, as I show you this, you'll realize that you've been doing that in Aikido classes. And the idea is to teach you how to fall into your strikes and how to propel your strikes with that back leg to produce tremendous force in your punches. And a lot, like if we're doing Aikido or something, when we do that throw, we're taking this all the way to the floor. And it's one strike, it's one smooth motion with tremendous power. And so forward rolls are a good way to practice that. So I'm here, and again, this would be in 2 steps, but for the exercise, this is fine. So I've got my weight here, and now when you do this, you know, like with your forward rolls, you're not coming down on your knee, you're coming down on the inside. If you come down on your knee and beat yourself in the ribs for a while, it gets pretty unpleasant. So I'm here, and then I'm going to fall forward, and that gives me my forward roll, but that gives me practice pushing through that falling step. Now the second strike that is important for us is what Dempsey calls an inside hook, and I think he also calls it a scooping hook. And where you see this a lot in this kind of strike, you have your elbows, you have your elbow here planted against your ribs. And so when you deliver the strike, you get power, what he calls a whirl, where you're twisting your hips like this, and then he's driving the hip up and driving this arm up with the hip. So you've got a whirling motion, and you've got this drive up. And you see this in lots of Aikido techniques. People don't usually talk about it as a strike, but from the way we do Aikido, these are strikes. And so he catches my wrist, and now this is like Tenchinage would be set up, but it could be a lot of different throws. And so when you're doing Tenchinage, of course this would be your falling step, and we're not going to get into that right now. What I want to show you is this scooping hook. And this hook comes, so as I come in, I'm whirling and driving my hand up, and normally you go past his head here. And we'll explain about all of what's going on there. But this drive and the power is coming here. So these are two strikes. There's some other strikes in Dempsey stuff that are really important for us. There are a lot of things there that are really important for us. But these two strikes are very important, and studying these and playing with them and trying to understand them will go a long way toward helping you how to turn your Aikido from some basic beginner exercises into incredibly powerful and effective techniques.